two qualities of a ride custom cushion. What are they? Qualities of loading and the qualities of offloading. All right? Before you can even do anything about measuring the qualities of loading, what do you got to do? Make sure you're offloaded. Make sure you're offloaded. So our goal is that whether you're working on an existing cushion or a brand new cushion, before you throw that baby out with the bathwater or anything, you do everything you possibly can to get the person offloaded so that we can verify the loading qualities of the cushion. Because which quality is easier, loading or offloading? Offloading's easier, right? Offloading's easy. If it were just about offloading and your only concern were ITs, just sit everybody on a toilet seat, right? Right? That offloads the ITs. It offloads the ITs, right? Why wouldn't you do that? It doesn't load safely. It doesn't load safely. So if you're modifying a cushion, you're modifying it because either the loading characteristics or the offloading characteristics aren't ideal. And as you saw how we make the cushions in the back, all done by hand. These are skilled people interpreting a shape that you send, trying to establish where those bony prominences are, and making modifications to what you send us to get an offloading cushion. We're good at it. But our goal is to give you some basic instruction so you can develop your skills in becoming great at it. So when you're working with your consumers that are getting on these cushions, you go there, you find out something's not quite right, you're able to dive right in there and correct that problem. Correct that problem. So rule number one is modify ride custom cushions with gusto and confidence. Okay? Nothing scares a consumer more than anything than going, ooh, ooh. Right? So you want to make sure you do it with confidence. If you're offloading, when you're thinking just in general, just big principles of modifying a ride custom cushion, if you're offloading, you are trying to get rid of material. Okay, they tend not to be subtle modifications. They're pretty aggressive. Get rid of material, get as much space around those bony prominences as possible, just so long as you're not modifying up into the loading contours, right? Okay, so typical things we'll see, and we'll start with this, the things we might see. You say you did your evaluator-based evaluation, worked great. Everything looked great. Skin looked great, position in the chair looked great, function was great, but you made a note that when you did that evaluation that it was a little bit tight at the sacrum, it was a little bit tight in the GBR, okay, the perineum area. Okay, so you're going to go ahead and order the evaluator, all right, knowing that when you fit it, you're going to see that again, and you're going to modify that. So you have the client sitting on the cushion. I really do need Elsie. Could somebody go fetch Elsie for me? Thank you. So what I'll do on the sacral area is I'll have to slide my hand down in between the client, and it'll be snug there, right? I'm kind of going over there until I feel away from the sacrum. Thank you. So I'm kind of, imagine your sacrum is down in this area. You're palpating over this way until you feel good soft tissue, and this way until you feel good soft tissue, right? And you'll make some lines. So I'm palpating over. I'll say, okay, that feels good about right there. You always want to make sure that you have your client wear white clothing and use a black Sharpie. So you make sure that you get them right back in the same place again when you're done. Okay? All right, so I made those marks. I'll help the client out. I want to clean out, I'm going to open up the sacral area all the way down into the bottom and blend it in with the bottom of the well. I don't want to have a divot, then a high spot, and then down. I want to dig right down into there. I can open up back here. I can cut as much away as I want to leave at least about 1/4 of an inch of cushion material above the cam straps. Because I don't want somebody kind of hanging out over the back of the cushion and chafing on the cam straps, okay? So I've kind of drawn that now. My modification tools in the field tend to be the Black & Decker HR21 turbocharged turkey carver, okay, and a couple of a cat and a doggy curing combs or shedding blades, okay. Obviously, I've been just a little bit too aggressive these last few years. Okay, all righty. So we'll begin by just doing our gross cut with the knife.
What's the darker gray beads versus the lighter gray?
Did you go on the tour yesterday?
Yeah.
Were you not paying attention? Those of you who haven't been to a certification course don't appreciate just how crazy things get by the end of the course. So we use we do a hand-painted extra layer of the adhesive that we use on the cushion to hold the beads together around the perimeter of the cushion to help maintain the integrity, keep the beads from sloughing and stuff like that. Okay? All right. Stand back. Always wear safety glasses. Okay, so I've done kind of this, what I would call the gross cut at the sacrum. Okay, now clearly I got that cut out of there. I've obviously created some space, but that's a very rough edge there, or sharp edge, I would say, not so much rough. So that's when you get your custom infield modification tool, and you're simply going to grind that. Okay, and you're going to feel a problem. You're not going to see a problem. Okay, so you're going to put your hand over that area and say, okay, I want to feel that. So you're going to be modifying to get material out of the way you want to have offloaded, and you want to blend that contour into your loading contour. Okay? Obviously this makes a mess, right? Oftentimes if I'm in the field, I'll keep the box that the ride custom cushion came in. I'm setting it down in the box, and I'm doing this down in the box. I'm over at Craig Hospital. They call me Pigpen over there. There's a cloud of the stuff hanging around me. All right, so I'm just going to smooth that out. I'm just going to move quickly. So you're going to do that all the way around, blend it down into the well. All right, and you're ready to go. Now when you get back on there, you should have just a mile. You want as much material out of there as possible, because not only is that offloading the bony prominences, that's airspace. You know, we say the cushion's breathable, right? It's almost more like the cushion's drainable. You know, things go through it, right? And some air goes through it. But mainly, you're talking about air over the contour and underneath the client is really doing the job for us. The spacer fabric over these contours. The spacer fabric wicks the moisture out from the sitting surface into the airspace for evaporation, right? So you want to have as much of that airspace as possible. Okay? Now, the other area that you might be having an issue upon fitting, whether it be evaluated or not, is that upon fitting, you're finding that it's tight in the groin area. All right? So we want, again, just same type of thing here. We want to get the pressure off of that area, and we want to allow for better airflow. Okay? So I will just palpate back until I start to feel soft tissue. I'll make a mark. I'll palpate laterally until when I start to palpate laterally, I want to know how far laterally I can go until I start feeling I'm loading soft tissue. Like, you know, you know what I'm saying, or into the loading contour. So I'll just kind of, I obviously don't want to go too far that way, right? Because I'm going to be compromising the loading. Okay? So again, just going to go in there. You can see with the knife, you can get kind of a concave cut, but you can't dig down in there, right? So I'm going to start with the knife, kind of blend that down in there. Then you do the rest of the work with your carving tool. So I'm going to go in there. I'm just going to dig that out even further. I'm going to blend it in. Okay, open that up, go as deep as you need to, right? Smooth those edges, all right? This also is something I'll do if it's somebody I'm really concerned about, which everybody I fit, is it gives you can open up the GBR to help you get your hand down underneath the client, either back through the sacrum or through the GBR to establish where those bony prominences are, because that's what you might be checking next, right? So your issue is, when you look at the pelvis, you know, that gauge will tell you how much clearance there is under the ischials. If you've got your trochanters in the right place, in ischials landing, I'm going to back up. I apologize. What I've shown so far is looking at sacrum and perineum. I want to keep it going in the right direction. Is trochanter. Okay? Remember, you want to work with, when you do your fitting, your first go, no-go is trochanter position. Right? So I want to make sure that I'm able to get the client on the cushion correctly. So before I start modifying for trochanters, I want to make sure my chair, my back, my footrest, everything is set up correctly. Oftentimes I've seen people go in and start modifying a cushion. The cushion was fine. Their position on the cushion was being blocked by a back support not being set up correctly. Okay? So make sure you've got the system set up correctly so they can sit on it correctly. But then if you find, however, whether through a skin check or through palpation that there's some redness or there's some heavy bony loading, I will take my marker, I'll reach in, I'll palpate in, I'll go forward until I start to feel good soft tissue, and I'll go to the back, the posterior margin of the trochanter. I'll make a couple marks on the cushion. Then I can reach my hand in between the client and the cushion. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to reach in, I'm going to start going in between the client until I find myself, okay, I'm feeling bones, oh, now I'm into soft tissue. Okay? Then I'm going to think, okay, I'm like halfway between my first knuckle and my second knuckle. Right? That's roughly how far in I got to modify. All right? Because there's also, you always hear about the greater trochanter. There's also a lesser trochanter. And if we get too aggressive with our contour up that way, we can have issues there. So I want to palpate in there, see if, especially in your really, really bony people. So remember, there's a lesser one too. Okay? Like there's the greater partner and there's the lesser partner. It's everywhere in life. Okay? So what I'm able to do then is I'm able to go in, line my hand up where it was, and kind of, again, mark that. So I'm just going to kind of relocate that. I need to bring this contour. Again, on the trochanter, this is where I'm a little bit more subtle. I don't go be digging a big old trench. Again, I want to keep my cam straps protected. I'm just going to go in and do a very subtle. There's really nothing between the trochanter and the ischial that should be loaded. So you can just kind of open that area and just kind of take it right down and open up that area, okay? So you'll see I kind of cut that relief and kind of taper it down into the well, all right? So cutting that open, and again, what am I doing? I'm blending it. Now, this is where you're going to have problems. If you get too aggressive here, this is where you really want to do a nice taper. This is where a lot of your weight's going through for your clients, that weight bearing on that proximal thigh. So you want to have a real quality shape there. You dig out here where there was some weight bearing and leave a high spot here, all you're going to do is switch the problem from the trochanter right up onto the proximal thigh. Okay, so relieve some weight there, and then really smooth that contour. All right. Okay, so that's a trochanter. Now, if you call me, here's a great question. I don't know if it's been asked by anybody asked yet this course. It's a really important question. Do seating systems position people?
No, people position people.
Good job. Next question. Next question is, if you call anybody here at Ride Designs and you say, hey, I need to talk to somebody. I've got a client with redness, right? Guess where everybody here at Ride Designs is going to pray the redness is? Guess where we're going to pray it is? We're going to pray it's, what's easier, loading or offloading?
Offloading.
Okay, where am I praying the redness is? Ischials. That's the easiest. Identify where they are and get rid of the material. Okay, where every other cushion out there, if it's redness on the ischials, you're stuck. Because it's all about loading on those cushions. Okay, all we got to do is improve our quality of offloading. And we typically solve the problem. Okay, so we're finding out, so the idea is finding out where the issue is. Okay, so it may be that, you know, the client was captured really upright, really aggressively, and you find to get the cushion, it's just, I got a little bit overzealous, right? And so what happens is they need to sit a little bit more posteriorly. Put the cushion forward a little bit, trochanters are nice, everything's fine, but you know, we're getting a little bit, we're getting some contact or possibly bottoming out in the front of the well. So again, I can go in and palpate. Sometimes I can just kind of, again, memorize the position of my hand on the cushion, right? Kind of figure out where those are, because you're going to do a pretty gross removal of material there. But you can go in the front of the well. Okay, this is where the ITs were hitting. And this is typically when we get a cushion back in and say, oh, we've modified it, it didn't work. I want to return it, because this is how they modified it. Okay? Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go within it and I'm going to dig it out. The knife doesn't work. You can't dig in this. You really got to get your shedding blade. You're going to open that up. And you're going to find out in a second, you can go all the way through the bottom of this cushion. fact, Joe and I always say if we had our way, and if the market would accept it, we wouldn't even have it. It'd be a hole there. You know, it would look like a toilet seat. There's hundreds, if not thousands, of ride custom cushions out there with a hole in the bottom of it because it improves the height of offloading. There's really no protection for the issues offered by the bottom of this cushion. So getting rid of it only increases the depth. So dig it out. Can you dig it, baby? You better believe it. You're a fool not to. All right, so I've dug it out down to the level of the well. It looked like it was deep enough, but just wasn't coming forward. And I blend that into loading contour. How long did that take me? 10 seconds. Do it both sides, solve the problem. Okay, put it back on there, gauge it, check it, boom. Then, once you've got all your adjustments done and modifications, you're going to go for your checking for loading, which is done through skin checks. Never, ever, 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 ever secure offloading and think the client's okay. All right, offloading is easy. You identify if they're offloaded. You should never, ever, ever that should never give you confidence until you've done your sitting time and skin checks, as you would with any other cushion for a high-risk client, not just ride. Any high-risk client, you should make sure that client has zero confidence in that cushion until they verify the loading characteristics of that cushion relative to their needs over time watching their skin. Okay? All right. So, do it. Did Daniela talk about the contract? Yes. Okay. All righty. All righty. So you can do it on the front. I can do the same thing on the back. True story. Client goes to work in her cushion. All right? Goes to the work week. Every day during the work week, she goes home. She's got redness on her ITs. Light redness. Takes about an hour and a half to go away. There's clearly a problem there, right? On the weekend, she sits up on her cushion. No problems. No problems. This is a C4, same level as Jenny. C4, 5, quad. No, she's a C5, 6. I beg your pardon. C5, 6. And so during the week, she had redness. On the weekend, same seating, same everything. What's going on?
Forward to work.
Meredith nails it, right? She, when she goes to work, does the ever so subtle forward, right? And when she does that, what happens? Boom. The ischials just rock back. So there's plenty of clearance. What was happening, the posterior ramus of the ischial, this is a very ugly bony prominence, all kinds of crazy stuff back there. And it was simply, when she was rocking forward, the posterior ramus was coming back and hitting there. All we did in the clinic, I put my hand down in there. I said, okay, now rest. Okay, now simulate the position you're in. And sure enough, man, we were so close. We had crowded that too much. There just wasn't enough room. Again, I reached in there, made my mark, dug it out, problem solved. And they'd been chasing that problem for 3 months. And they waited for me to come out to help that situation out. And I won't say who the clinic was. I won't even give the initials. Okay, all right, now, client comes in. This is either a brand new cushion or it is a 2-year-old cushion. Okay, somebody comes in and they're bottoming out at the ITs. Do you want to go in there and dig? No, I want to go in there and find where I can use the gauge, find out where those ITs are. So, all right, I can kind of see where those ischials are. All right, kind of pull this back, and I can kind of make some marks as far as where that needs to be. Connect the dots. Okay. Now, ladies and gentlemen, do try this at home. There's a lot of material there, isn't there? Okay, all right, now that looks like pretty dangerous right there, right? So I want to go around and just kind of blend in my sacrum. Okay, a good These are like 19 bucks at Walmart, okay? I don't know how many times I've been out in the field and that you couldn't cut butter with what's out there. I went out, worked with an ATP once that had one that was so bad. I was like, well, how do you turn this on? Oh, I got to hold these two wires together. Honest to God, you had to hold it there and hold wires together and then cut the cushion. I said, let's go to Walmart after lunch today. And I spent 3 times as much on the lunch as I did on the blade, on the knife. Thank you, John. All right. So again, you're just going to go in there, clean that all up and everything. All right. It's going to feel real nice, right? Man, you just solved the problem. So if it's the old cushion, right? That person's coming in, they got redness. You just made their cushion safe. Now you can go back to making sure all the loading qualities are correct. Okay? If the loading qualities are correct, that means you got good skin response, good posture, all that great stuff like Daniela just went over. All right? Maybe it's still, they need a new cushion. Okay? If you've got a cushion that the loading, there's no more accurate representation of a safe loading contour than one that's been created over the years of use on a ride custom cushion. So if my loading qualities of the cushion are doing the job they're intended to do, support the body without redness, the proper posture and proper orientation to my mobility base, you don't want to start with the shape capture. You want to go with this cushion, right? So what you're going to do is you're going to set it on you're going to take the cover off, you're going to put it in a big plastic bag, you're going to get your ride custom back kit, and you're going to grab a box of the plaster. All right? And over the plastic bag, you're going to take real nice wet plaster, and you're going to lay bandage over the cushion. You're going to lay it all the way down into the well, all the way down to the sides, all the way down to the table. If you just give us the top information, what aren't you telling us?
The depth.
Orientation, right, yeah, height. So we want to get the perimeter of the table too. Takes about 20 minutes for that to dry. You flip it open, you pull it out. You've already modified the cushion. It's safe to go underneath the client. And you fill out your order form, your impression foam based order form, so you can make your changes in depths, contours, and stuff like that via the order form, and you send that in. We make a cushion. That comes out of the box and goes on the chair. Boom, slam dunk. Okay? All right? New cushion. This is what we don't want you to do, is to get a new cushion, find out that they're bottoming out, and call us and ask for an RA. Say, I need it deeper. What are you going to do? You're going to make it deeper. Because the last thing neither the consumer, you, or I want to have happen is you send it back, we cut it out, right? We send it back to you, you get it on, oh yeah, they're offloaded, but guess what? The loading qualities aren't working. All right, so we always want you to make every effort you can to get the person safely offloaded so you can evaluate the loading qualities of the cushion. Okay, client comes to you. This is typically a client, multiple sclerosis, all right, hypersensitivity, highly immobile, and you put them on the cushion, and they're like, you know, the posture's great, they're feeling anything. It's like, oh my goodness, it feels like I've just got 2 fists just pushing right into the side of my butt, right? You say, yeah, I got you. Let's sit for a few minutes. Let's make sure that your skin's good, right? Oh, someone come, just sit with me for a second, okay? Get the offloading taken care of and everything. Let them sit on it for a while. Skin's good, right? Okay, all right. Now they've sat on it for about 30 minutes. You assist them off the cushion, and what you're going to do is you're going to go to the cantle. What you're going to find is oftentimes the cantle, you would think a cushion for a buttocks is going to be concave, right? The shape of a buttocks. Our cantles tend to be convex. We're taking material up into the body. Again, sometimes we give you too much. If I'm in the field fitting something and want to make that delivery that day, I'd rather be taking away material than wondering where I'm going to get material to add on. Right? Okay? So what I'll oftentimes do is this is where I will use the knife very carefully. It's got to be a good sharp knife. And I'll just take the crown of that cantle right off. Right on that high spot. That was where the high spot was on that. I mean, it's barely a half of a bead thickness. All right. Take the crown off and go in there. This is when I'm really, really stretching my Michelangelo skills here. I really want to sculpt a beautifully smooth cantle. Okay. I don't want any high spots. I want to do this modification quickly. I want to get this done because that client just experienced the discomfort of that, right? And she's still got the memory of it. So I'm going to do that on both sides, smooth that up, put the cover back on, sit her on. She's like, oh, that is just so much better. Then I said, but I'm kind of feeling on the proximal thigh too. So go to the proximal thigh and do the same thing. When you're doing these subtle shape modifications, that thin of a piece of material, rarely does that affect your offloading. But you want to check. Whenever you modify the loading contours of the cushion, make sure you go back and double check the offloading. Okay? If it's these subtle type of modifications for comfort, rarely are you messing with your offloading. Okay? Now you can move forward. And as I've mentioned, if you can get somebody reasonably comfortable at the time of the fitting, that cushion will just get comfortable as the weeks progress, as the cushion takes a set to that sitter and the shape improves relative to how we're loading the person. Okay? Any questions? We'll take them off tape.